Hey guys, today we're just going to talk about how to color correct in our Final Cut. Now, I think a lot of people have just been asking like how to do color grading and stuff like this. I'm only going to show you one particular type of grade, color effect, but you can. It is quite a sort of, I guess, sought after look in Hollywood to kind of have this kind of thing, as you can see here in the Die Hard 4 movie, where you have very kind of this particular tone of like reddy orange kind of skin tones with, and in the shadows it's very sort of greeny blue, I guess, and everything else is fairly desaturated. I mean, they do dress people in kind of wardrobe that is fairly neutral most of the time. I mean, obviously there's a bit of yellow there to kind of give it a bit more color, but most of the time you'd see he's not really wearing anything that is particularly bright. It's all quite neutral. So it's a fairly typical kind of look. You can kind of get these looks with if you go to what do you call Red Giant software. I mean, it's a pretty great place to kind of get a really great plugin called Magic Bullet Looks, and I'm just going to try and mimic something from Magic Bullet Looks, which is that kind of Hollywood grade, I guess. Well, you see what I mean. Where is it? Magic Bullet Looks. If you haven't got this plugin and you have a little cash, it's a pretty good plugin to get. I think you'd be really surprised at how great, how flexible. It saves you a lot of time. But if you don't have the dosh and you want to get this kind of effect, I have a way to do it to kind of get some of those effects in Magic Bullet Looks, like the basically there's a soft focus around the edges and that kind of thing. And to isolate the skin tones and sort of grade the background the way it is. And for this tutorial, you'll have to install this plugin. It's Andy's plugins for Final Cut Pro. They're all free. You can get them. They're not, they work all right. But for this particular plugin, the one we want to look at is where is it? Region Blur, which is actually a really cool kind of plugin. It's quite useful, actually. So what it does is it sort of, you'll see in a second, it just sort of draws a circle around it, and then it's sort of like a mask, and you blur the edges or you blur whatever section you want to do. It's quite nice. Anyway, let's get into Final Cut. So you can see here, this is the look we're going to go for. I'll just show you the before and after, just so you have an idea of what it kind of looks like. So this is what the footage looked like before, and this is what it looks like after we've applied the grade. So you can see the skin tones are still very much preserved. Everything's a little bit more desaturated around the edges. We've kind of cooled down the edges a bit more, so it's more greeny blue, and the edges, yeah, are slightly soft using that Andy's Region Blur. So you can see here I've stacked a few plugins on top. So 1, 2, we've got 5. I can count 5 plugins. And I don't know how long this will take to render, but you get a little bit of control over using this technique. So I hope this makes sense. Anyway, I'll sort of work you through it so you understand what I'm talking about. So the first thing we need to do when we do get into this, and we just start this comp all over again. Oh, and I cropped it just to kind of give it that, cinematic look, because everybody loves the cinematic look. And we'll take the filters off too. Okay, so let's start from scratch. So what we're going to do is go to the effects panel, and let's click this and clear it. So let's bring this window up. So what we're going to do is find the color. If you go to video filters and color corrector, let's pull that on. Now, I don't generally like to use the drop down menu on this. I generally go to the visualization, which is right here. And let's get started. Now let's just pick, if you go to this eyedrop tool on the side here, I usually pick somewhere, it's sort of not too bright on the highlights, but a little bit more in the middle, so you kind of pick a color in there. So that looks pretty good. That looks like my skin tone. This is a picture of me if you've never seen me before, so I apologize if that kind of freaks you out. Anyway, so then let's go to this key. Once we pick that, let's go pick this key icon here. Shows us what we have actually picked. Oops, I apologize. I've done this completely wrong, but that is okay. Let's start this again. You're probably wondering, what's he doing? Anyway, we need to reset this. Let's just delete it because it's not resetting the way I want it to. Let's try this again. Okay, it's still that color, which is really odd, and it doesn't need to be. Why is it that color? Anyway, sorry, you need to pull this drop down menu which says limit effect. I forgot. And you go, okay, let's pick the color. So we go here and pick this color. You can't see it, but it actually has picked the limiting. What it does is it's picked a color that it wants to limit. So if you kind of see here, I've kind of picked that region and it selects all the colors that are kind of around it. This is basically what it's going to affect. So what we're going to do is just pull this out just a little bit more so we can affect more of the color. So that orangey red thing is quite good. And I'm just going to pull the fall out a little bit more so that we have a bit of a smoother fall off. I'm just going to move this into not so much yellow, it's more orangey purple. So the orange to the purple, and from my opinion, this is what I've kind of found is more the skin color. I'm going to Luma off because I actually find that it doesn't actually help me at all. Pull the saturations up a little bit. See there, it's starting to show me that that's kind of the area of my skin. So what we're going to use this filter for is kind of like a mask slash isolating the skin tone of somebody. So let's soften this up a little bit and let's edge thin it so we can kind of crush that white thing a little bit, or that white mask a little bit. So it's picking up some of my hand. This is actually the other part of my hand here. You won't actually see right now, but it's kind of getting blown out and it doesn't look very good. So, but it'll be all right in this case because we probably don't need to isolate that particular color. So if you can see, that's the original. And now if we push, when it goes blue, that's showing you the source. And if we press it again, that goes back to the matte. So what's really great with this now is we've got this limit effect on, and we can basically pull the skin tones all the way down. So see, my face goes almost black and white and everything else stays in color. The alternative of this is to actually use this and invert it, and we can actually pull all the other colors down and just leave me in black and white, which is cool. But in this case, we'll just leave it on what it is right now, and we'll put on the next filter, which I can't remember what it was because it was the three-way. Okay, cool. So let's go for the three-way filter. Okay, so what we do here with the three-way is, that's also under the same color correction. We're just going to crush this a little bit and pull this up a little bit. Okay, and pull this up a little bit. And we're going to give it a slight color kind of correction here. So I'm just going to push the shadows into the blue a bit more, not much. Push the mids into sort of an orangey red, and this can kind of come in not too much because I don't really like changing this one. Actually, we'll push this up towards that direction a bit more. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take the saturation down a little bit. So the overall picture is going to be desatted quite a bit. I'm going to take the blacks down a little bit more too. We're going to desat it a bit more down, and so you can see now the whole picture has become quite desatted, and that's not really, the problem here is we actually want to still keep, if you go back to the original example, we still want to keep the colors looking, the skin, we still want to look quite, I guess, quite red and fleshy and, healthy. But if we kind of take everything down, you kind of see, once you put that filter on, things start to become quite murky and you kind of lose a lot of that detail. So what we do to kind of combat that is to take the saturation up, and as you can see that the color of my skin goes up as everything else is sort of coming down, which we could have done before, but this particular way gives you a little bit more control, and I'll show you why in a second. As you can see here, you can try to control it on two different levels, so you can kind of push one up instead of a balancing act, and this is what you generally try and do when you try and color correct things, is to try and balance the kind of look that you want to get. Now we can also adjust, because if you put the color correction on top of it, then you can adjust everything, because if you're adjusting the blacks and everything here, then you kind of miss on all the other, you kind of just color correcting his face, well, my face, his face, talking to the third person, which is not what you want. You want to kind of color correct everything. So this is my way of kind of doing it to kind of make sure that we still have an overall color correction for everything else there. Now that's cool. I'm pretty happy with that. So just so you can see what we've done, I've put a filter on and made myself really orange. Then I've counteracted that and balanced it the other way and given it a sort of overall color correction. It's not looking too bad. Let's go for Andy's filter here, which you will, if you install it, this is where it'll be. If you go to region blur, see there, it kind of blurs out my face. So if I take the crosshairs here, just sort of take it towards the center of my face, and let's go down. Let's scale it up just a little bit so it kind of comes to the edges there, and I'm really blurred. And let's pull the, if we go further down, you'll see there's, where is feather? Feather, oh there it is, feather. And so we feather it, just so it gives you a nice feathered edge. And we'll invert the selection so it's on the outside. And that blur is like far too much. Like, I don't know what kind of lens, it just looks dirty. So what we're gonna do is just take it down to probably about maybe 6. Now, it's just a subtle effect, maybe even less than that. It just needs to be a subtle effect. You don't want it to be like so obvious. Like, I don't want people to notice that there's a blur around it, unless there's some sort of effect you're going for. But keep it subtle, guys. It's the key. Keeping it subtle is the key. Okay, now we're really starting to stack up these effects here. Let's put, I'll keep that there. Now, let's roll this up so you can see what's going on. Now, we're getting very close to the end here. This is the last effect we need to put on, which is, if you go down to image control, there's color balance, and let's pull that on. And this is quite easy to do. Actually, this is not the one I used. What was the one that I used? I forget what I did. Color balance. Yeah, color balance, and then that's right. And I did an overall correct. All right. So it's good. That's why I did it before, because I wanted to make sure that I could remember how I did it. Let's go here. And it doesn't look like color balance, but I guess that's what I did. Anyway, to give it that kind of, now if you kind of muck around with these sliders, you can kind of see that it kind of gives you a different look. Now that's kind of like that, we're going to push the reds down, I guess, and give it more of a, you know, that kind of look where it's more Hollywood-esque. You kind of see the tones in the shadows are becoming more blue. And that's kind of looking good. And just see what happens when you actually muck around with the shadows a bit more. Actually, we push the reds up, push the blue, push the shadows up a bit more. I don't actually like how Final Cut handles the shadows. It actually does a really terrible job, in my opinion. It just seems to look very, very unnatural. I really dislike how it kind of just generally looks. Because you see here, when you pull things up, like, it just doesn't handle the colors well. That's why if you get a chance to use Red Giant's, if you use, there's another plugin here you can get called Colorista, which is really great. That's if you get a chance to use it. It's a really nice color correction tool. This is kind of how I got the idea for it. But this is kind of a makeshift color correction way of doing things. You don't have to do it this way. I'm going to pull the greens up just a little bit to give it more of a, oh, we could pull it out. Which way do you reckon? Actually, that doesn't look too bad. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, that's almost the look we got. So just kind of going back to where we were, I'm just going to show you how we kind of got there. So again, I said, so we isolate the skin color, so I look radioactive orange. Then we pull it back and balance it the other way. Then we put on the blur, and then we put a bit of a color balance in there. Now the final thing we need to do is sort of just do an overall color correction. And so we'll do all this one up, and let's sort of just pull the blacks down even more, give it more of a mood. Yep. And pull the saturation up just even a bit more. Actually, I don't like what it's done here. I think the saturation up a little bit more is not bad. If you want, you could even dial that color correction in even more. Nah, I don't like that. And that is pretty much it. I liked my original one better, actually. I didn't like this one as much, but we'll see if we can get to something that I'm reasonably okay with. Okay, so what's cool about this now is that if you want to actually dial in a particular kind of hue, and that's one of the things here, is that all the kind of blues are this sort of, if you can kind of see, or everything in the shadows is kind of this almost bluey teal kind of color, and that's what we're going to kind of get. It's going to be a very subtle kind of effect. At the moment, the blue is a little bit cool, and we're going to see if we can get that a little bit warmer. So what we can do is go here. Let's turn off the limit effect so we can see the wheels. We're going to dial, actually, this wasn't the one I used. That's why. I was wondering why this is not the right one. To be able to dial that in, let's take that away, and we'll just dial this in. My apologies, because I was wondering why this wasn't looking the way it's looking, but now I remember why. Okay, so let's dial this in. So I'm going to turn on the last one I just put on. I just put the same color corrector, not the three-way, but just the normal color corrector. I'm just going to turn this wheel to, actually it's to this way, isn't it? What we're doing is just shifting the hues a little bit, and you can kind of see here in the top right-hand corner, this blue is not very pretty, but if we kind of shift it a bit more, it's kind of becoming a bit more warm. Now the problem with that though is that when we do start shifting hues this way, things in the skin start going wrong. You can see here, we want to shift the hue of the blue to that, but if everything else starts going wrong, which means my skin starts going wrong, that's no good. So that's why we put that last. You can go back to the first one. You can actually shift it back the opposite way to kind of, you can still keep the skin the way it is, but this actually helps me to dial my skin back in, if I can find it. Oh, it looks terrible. Something has gone wrong. It should be. Something has gone horribly wrong. It doesn't look right, does it? I don't feel it looks right. But anyway. Yeah, well, I guess that's what you would do. So something doesn't look right at all. I'm not happy with how this is color corrected, but this is the basic principle for how you would do it, in case you were wondering. I'm going to just dial this all back up a little bit more. It's just a little bit too desatted. And I'm going to reset these because I don't like how I did these ones either. Yeah. I don't think I did a good job in this isolation here. I did alright. It's not too bad, I guess. It just doesn't look very good. I just don't like it. Let's maybe we dial the edge thinner back. I just feel like this didn't quite work out the way that I wanted to, but it's okay. I think that maybe this three-way color corrector had something to do with it, but we'll just reset the hues back to where they were. Because actually it doesn't look as bad as I thought it would. I apologize. I'm rambling a little bit, and it kind of didn't go the way that I was hoping it would. But you can get this effect, I promise. Just got to kind of experiment a little bit here, but essentially this is how you get the control you want from the things that you're doing, to kind of get it to. And the idea is not to crush the blacks too much. You still want to get a fair amount of contrast and stuff and things. No, this has to go. I'm pretty sure this went this way. Let me double check what I did in the other one. I forget. This looks way nicer, don't you think? I think this looks way nicer. I just can't remember what I did. Color balance is that? Yeah, it's pretty close. And then here, yeah, shifted the hues that way. Don't know. Should be the same, but just doesn't look anything like the same. Maybe I shifted this too much. Maybe this is the wrong color balance. I apologize, guys. I'm just going to post this up as it is because I cannot remember what I did. Yeah, and that's not the same color balance. Oh, no wonder. I was like, oh, something's wrong here. That's not the right color balance. And this is the one I want, under image control. I'm such a chump. Anyway, here we go. I'll turn this one off so you can see. I just didn't, I was like, that doesn't look right. This is the one I wanted because actually this doesn't have, oh, did I do it again? No, this isn't the same one either. Where's the one that I want? Where's the one that I want? What do I want now? I'm very confused. This should be what it is, but it's definitely not the one I'm looking for. Oh, this is under this one. This color balance. That's why it doesn't look right. Okay, so I just realized you have to install another filter, which I completely forgot about. Because this color balance does a much better job. As you can see, I was getting a really awful looking kind of grade, and I just wasn't happy with it. But you can kind of, this does a much better job, and it's free. So that's why I picked this one. So I'll just show you what it is. This is actually coming under if you look up TMTS plugins, let's go look for it now actually. TMTS plugin FCP. Too much too soon, obviously, because that's what I realized it was. You can actually go here and it's a free download. Just download all of them. It's really great. It's a really great plugin because it does a much better job than the, oh, did you saw the color balance I just did before? It was terrible. So good. So I did that whole fumbling around just so you knew how terrible that plugin was. And so if that makes sense. Okay, so that looks heaps better in my opinion. All right. Let's go back to this and turn this back on. And as you can see, that looks much better. But we are going to reset this because I was just farting around in that last section for way too long. So you can probably pull the midtones up just a bit, and we'll just, it's not going to be too crushed. I don't like stuff that's too crushed. I think it just screams amateur if you just crush things too much. But anyway, and I'll put the sats up just a little bit more. And now this is starting to look a little bit more like what I was hoping it would look like. And like I said, you can probably do the hue sat switch up. So if we just roll this way, that's looking much better. And we'll go back to the first one. So, and let's roll this back the other way so we can fix up the skin tone. And there you go. That looks a little bit nice. Still not really convinced, hey? It doesn't. I think we just need to darken it a little bit more overall. Yeah, that looks not too bad. Yeah, the blacks definitely need to be crushed a little bit more. But anyway, so there you go. And the final thing we need to do is go to the motion tab. And to give that, we'll just say this is 13. Just drop the top and the bottom. And there you go. You have your cinematic look. And I'll just do a comparison. So we'll take the crop and filters off. So that was before, and this is after. And I think it looks alright. Well, I don't know what you guys think, but I think it looks kind of cool. So it's quite an easy effect to kind of achieve. So you just got to remember that you can pretty much get rid of all the colors and keep everything blue, and then just keep the skin tones pretty much there, and you've pretty much got that kind of die-hard Hollywood kind of look that everybody kind of loves. And you can do that with free plugins. And anyway, I hope that helps. And just let me know. Just show me some samples of your work and stuff, and see if this actually worked for you guys. I hope it did. It's the principles. This is only just one particular effect you can go for. I mean, color correcting goes into a much larger kind of category, and I couldn't even tell you. I'm not a color correcting kind of guy. This is just one technique that I found, and I thought it was kind of a good challenge to kind of see if it was possible to actually do some decent color correction in After Effects with some control. In Final Cut with some control. And I think it looks alright, considering it's just using the standard plugins in Final Cut. I think it's possible. Anyway, that's it for me, and I guess I'll see you next time.